So with that, let's jump right in. So tell us, what can you share with us right off the bat as step number one?
Step number one, I'd say, is to keep a cool head. You definitely don't want to jump to conclusions. You don't want to get overly emotional. I see people get really upset, and maybe they're also confused. But and whenever you're in some sort of fight or flight mode like that, and you're emotional and or even angry or confused, none of those things play well for you. So you want to get to a place where you can sort of relax and get a better understanding of exactly what's going on, so you don't have a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. Can I tell you my number one piece of advice in terms of what to do when you get an account suspension?
Go for it.
I say this: you're going to have to deal with this. So unless you receive one of those nasty messages that you are out, you will never be allowed back in, even then it doesn't mean anything. You're going to get back in. But from practical standpoint, as a business owner, assume that that bi-weekly deposit cycle will skip twice.
Probably. Depends.
Assume the worst, and immediately go plan your cash flow. What happens if I don't get payment on the next payment cycle? So that you are ready, so that it doesn't happen, then at least you have some kind of a peace of mind. Of course, you're not going to stay suspended, but you've taken care of all your cash flow that you're going to need. What do you think about that approach?
I like that a lot. The only thing I would add to that, one step better maybe, is that everybody should be thinking about that all the time, even if you're not suspended. What do you do if you don't get a payout? If your business is going to go into a spiral and you have to lay people off, or you can't make rent, or you can't pay your mortgage because of one missed payout, that's a big problem. And I would want to make alternative plans, contingency plans immediately before you're in that position. You don't want to be winging it like that on Amazon, where you're just really strung out with your credit cards and in a really bad position if you miss it, if they miss a payment.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's a tough call, because when you start building on Amazon, you're buying inventory, and those payments come much faster than you hope, and you're going week after week after week handling your stuff, and then you do end up growing your operation to the extent that Amazon is the majority of your sales, and you rely on that bi-weekly deposit. So it's a big deal. And let's face it, especially as we record this, with the economy going the way it is and the interest rates, and I mean, people don't really have that extra buffer to say, okay, I'm going to assume this is not, and then I'm all set. It's very hard. So people do end up relying on that bi-weekly deposit, and then at least as an emergency measure, okay, imagine it's not going to be there, make the arrangements, so at least that way you can focus on what's in front of you. That was my take.
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. The struggle and the difference is you're not just an Amazon seller. If you're an Amazon seller, you're a small business owner, you're an entrepreneur. You might be a solopreneur, but you're still a business owner. And Amazon is just a platform. It's just a marketplace. Even if that's where all of your income comes from, that causes you to immediately think about, well, where else could your income come from besides Amazon, if that's where your only check is coming from? A lot of your listeners, I'm assuming, are much bigger sellers. They're on a bunch of platforms. Amazon's just one channel. And if you're only on Amazon, you should think of yourself that way. Hey, I could be selling here, I could be selling there, I could be offering other services. Where else could you get income besides just Amazon? Because you don't want to have the day come along where, oh, your payment doesn't come through, or something happens with this strange, FTC lawsuit, and they decide we're not going to let any more sellers in the door. I mean, anything could happen, but you don't have to take those kinds of risks to be a business owner selling on Amazon.
Yeah.